We have a returning guest. You guys might be familiar with them, my good friend Favi Rankel. Favi, how are we doing today, my friend?
Hey, thank you for having me on. No, it's a pleasure. It's always good to sit down and talk to you, even when it's not about soccer. I love talking to you. But no, thank you for having me on. It has to be a pressing issue if you're having me on in such short notice.
Yes, it was something very interesting that a lot of people have been talking about the last couple days. A lot of people, some people surprisingly were upset. Some people are very happy about this because we've been calling for this to happen. And I'm going to be curious to see what you guys at home think about this and if you agree, disagree. But let's go ahead and get into it, right? So the other day, Messi did an interview with NBC talking about the league and MLS. And they asked him some questions about what he thinks about the league, what they should do. And Messi said he would like to see there be more financial freedom for teams in MLS to sign who they want. So I'm going to read this quote from him. Inter Miami Lionel Messi, while appearing on NBC's Nightly News, said every MLS team should have the opportunity to bring in players and sign whoever each team wants without any limitations or rules for players to bring them in. He also added, I don't think that today all teams in the United States, all clubs, have the power to do that, which we obviously know that. And I think that if they were given the freedom, many more important players would come. Hey, if you're enjoying the video, make sure you give it a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Our goal is to hit 12,000 subscribers by MLS Cup Final Day, which is less than 2 months away. A lot of exciting playoff games ahead of us, and we have real momentum, so I think we could hit that goal. So make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and hit that little bell notification so you never miss any of our videos. Now, back to the video, and help the growth of the United States. He also says he believes it's possible to grow the game in the country, adding that there are still big changes to be made so that teams can continue to grow. But I think that there is a very important foundation in place where teams are prepared and want that growth. Fabi, what do you think about Messi's comments about pushing teams in the league to open the purse strings and spend a little bit more money? Because this is the first time we've really heard him say this. A lot of people have been saying, yeah, if Messi makes any public statements asking the league to spend more money, pushing the envelope for it to happen, maybe this would finally work and they would change some things. But he hadn't done that until this point. But now he went on record in an interview and said it's time to start spending some money.
And with Messi, everything is calculated. So to say this on NBC Nightly News, I don't know. Maybe that's not the right audience to get mad, right? I thought that was kind of interesting because he sat down with Fabrizio Romano 2 days later to talk about everything else. And to be honest, maybe he feels like speaking to the soccer fans or the soccer audiences, nothing will happen. So speaking to the average American public will work, but that's kind of a disconnect because the average American public doesn't really watch MLS, right? So it's interesting that he chose that. Now, I wish he came out and said discovery rights hold the league back, because that would have been gone tomorrow, right? He was pretty vague with that comment. I think if he was a little bit more specific, like there shouldn't be four designated or three designated players, there should be five. I wish he was just a little bit more specific with that comment, because there's still a lot of MLS fans that believe that money spent doesn't mean success in this league. You still have some GMs going out and saying that money spent doesn't mean that you're gonna not win or gonna win an MLS Cup, which is completely hogwash. I can't believe people fell for that. And I get trying to toot your own job up. If you're the GM of Sporting KC or NYCFC, you need to kind of say those things. But who the heck comes into an MLS season thinking Sporting Kansas City is going to beat Miami and LAFC? Like, let's be completely honest. You can be competitive without spending that money, but you're not going to win an MLS Cup, and that's just the honest truth. The Galaxy won it last year. Yes, they did it without Ricky Puig, but they still spent like over $25 million with Paint, Soul, and Peck, right? So you need to spend money to win an MLS Cup in this league. And no, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now, if you want to win a CONCACAF Champions League or a Leagues Cup, you need to spend some money as well. Now, Seattle did a great job this year with Leagues Cup. They could take advantage, but not all the teams playing in it. They took advantage of all the Liga MX teams being out of it. But take a look at CONCACAF. Liga MX ran havoc with Cruz Azul. They beat they beat Vancouver in a way that embarrassed all of us. with that payroll that they have, with the players that they brought in, they embarrassed MLS. And more defeats need to happen like that. Messi needs to come out then and say that's why this is happening. But he chose an odd time right after re-signing with NBC Nightly News, and this could just be kind of, brushed under the rug once more. And I think it should have been a little more clinical if he really wants to push the league.
Well, I want to talk about what he said specifically, breaking down some of the things about signing players if we think, if that's the right move, if it's going to help the league go forward. But I want to ask this question, and I want you guys that are listening at home to chime in, see if you agree with this. Do you think him saying this, though, Favi, that teams should be able to sign who they want? Does he have, now we obviously know he's the best player of all time. No one questions that unless you're a Cristiano Ronaldo stan. But most people agree he's the best player of all time. He's the face of Major League Soccer right now. Do you think he has that type of pull to where he can come in here, say this, and have something changed? He can get these things changed in Major League Soccer to where players or teams can sign who they want. Does he have that type of pull?
This is actually really tough because it's obviously translated, and maybe we should get a clip of him saying it so I can kind of see the tonality of his voice in that. But I mean, of course, San Jose wants to sign Ronaldo. It's just not going to happen, So he's I don't know. He's kind of naive in this aspect too. Like, yeah, MLS should be able to sign whatever players, but Ronaldo's not going to go to SKC even though he has the discovery rights, right? Like, even though SKC has the discovery rights. So is he saying Inter Miami should be able to sign whoever they want? He should be a little more clear on this, because at the end of the day, a lot of MLS teams have 3 DP slots, and if they wanted to sign whoever they want, they could. They easily could. Now, Miami, of course, wants to sign 6 DPs, 7 DPs, 11 DPs to compete with Liga MX, but San Jose doesn't. So it's interesting. I still think he should have been a little more peculiar with what he's saying here, because at the end of the day, you have MLS teams saying, what do we do? We have 3 slots to do that already. We could easily do it. I think there needs to be a floor implemented. I think people need to go ahead and realize that, Miami is doing different things than their team, and that's just a reality. LAFC is doing different things than their team. That's just a reality. The Galaxy, when they're on an on year, they're going to do different things than your team. And I think Messi should have been a little better with this approach. I think he should have been a little more directed with that message.
Well, I just want to say this too, though. You talk about like Ronaldo would never sign with Sporting Kansas City. But to be fair, Ronaldo and Messi would never sign with Mallorca. They would never sign with Villarreal. They would never sign with Valencia. There's teams in Spain they would never sign with. So it's not like that this is just an MLS thing. There are teams in other leagues around the world that players of that caliber would never consider signing. And I think one of the things he mentions about this is he's kind of talking about like what Saudi did. I'm not saying he's saying go spend whatever you want, overspend on certain players to bring to the league. I just think he means give the teams more financial freedom to get players who want to be here, allow them to come over and play in this league. And obviously that would help raise the profile. And I don't think Messi cares or Inter Miami care about just winning the CONCACAF Champions Cup. They care about they care about being one of the top clubs in the world. They don't want to just be the top team in the region. They want to be considered in the upper echelon of other clubs around the world. They want to be in the same breath as the Barcelonas, the Real Madrids, the PSGs, the Manchester Cities, the Liverpools. That's what they're aiming to be. Now, are they going to reach that? I have no idea. Maybe they will. Maybe they never will. I have no idea. We won't know until they allow teams to have the flexibility to sign more players and see who they can attract and get to come to this league. But I like that he said this because I do think it's going to keep putting the pressure on MLS. When you have someone like him come out and say that, hey, I want our team and any team in the league. I'm not saying give me the special exemption for MLS for Inter Miami to only sign good players, which a lot of people would say would happen because of the Rodrigo De Paul loan deal this year that was a little iffy, right? But he's saying that any player who wants to come here to play for any team should be allowed to do that. There should not be these weird financial restrictions, which keep in mind, Messi and Inter Miami is the first time he's ever experienced something like that. PSG, Barcelona, they signed whoever they wanted that was willing to come to the club. So I think he talks about 2026 and how much potential there is for soccer growth in this country. He is essentially saying, hey, we could be bigger and better than what we currently are, but we have these restrictions limiting us from being our true best potential. And I do think Don Garber is going to listen to that. Now, is he going to change it? Or the owner's going to change it? I
Yeah,
have
that's what
no
we're
idea. I have
saying.
no idea.
How do you get 29 other owners besides Moss to agree with that? There's no way.
Well, I'll say this though: if there was one player who could, wouldn't you say it would be him? I mean, technically, the league is paying his salary right now. He is the biggest reason why Apple TV has any of the subscriptions it has right now is because of him. Let's be honest. Now, we just did an episode with our friend Tactical Manager TV talking about the numbers, but we both know that they were way worse before Messi got here, even if they're still not as good as they could be. I do think if he puts the pressure, there had been rumors that he'd been telling Jorge Mas that, hey, we need to get this thing changed. We need to get this thing changed. This is the first time in 3 years he said it himself publicly, even in an interview.
He's been critical of the refs before, though.
The refs he's been critical of, but not the spending of the league, right? And with the World Cup around the corner, I think that this is calculated in the fact of all the pressure, all the expectations of what is coming up. They're thinking that this could have an impact and get something changed before 2026.
So what would you say is a success? Because releasing the salary cap, that is not going to happen. I think that's unrealistic. I think you can't agree to have 28 owners, or let's put LAFC's owner and ownership group and then Jorge Mas together that they want to buy whoever they want to buy. Now put all the other 28 teams. You're not going to get those 28 teams to agree to that. So what is a realistic thing that they can do before this World Cup and after this World Cup to ensure that they can have more talent in MLS?
Well, I want to say that Manchester City's payroll is around 200 plus million pounds. Okay. And I think Inter Miami's is around, I think it's like 35, $40 million. That's what their payroll is. So we're talking about the Premier League being the Man City's being 5 times higher, right? Now, no one's asking for it to be that much, Fabi. But I think one thing that they could do is they could give a little bit more leeway or change a couple things. They're not going to get, just want to preface this, they're not going to get rid of the salary cap. Me and you both know that's not going to happen. That's fine. But it's almost like if you're willing to put yourself out there and press an issue, maybe you can get half of what you want instead of everything you want. So things would stay the same if no one said anything. But with him saying this, maybe they add 2 or 3 more DP spots. Maybe that's something that they're willing to like kind of meet him in the middle on.
Yeah, look, if you would have told me when Messi first came in and we heard Me voy a Miami, and you told me in 2025 we would still have 3 DPs, I would look at that as a great failure, as 100% as a failure. You weren't able to capitalize on Messi being here, and you weren't able to go ahead and add more DPs. And I think that sentiment was with the rest of the league too. And I think when the rumors were coming out that a 4th DP was in talks and they met with all the ownerships, MLS Cup, and then it came out that, you know what, we're not going to do a 4th DP. I think that was a collective groan by every single franchise in fan bases in this league by far. And I think that was a moment that we all kind of felt a little bit gloomy because I think that was easily the next lateral move or like upward move and not lateral like this. You could choose your defining roster mechanism, which it's good, but then you're making it even more complicated and you're making it less. I mean, what you need to do is you need to add a floor. And that's the honest truth. You can't have a team without having 3 DPs signed. You can, like, I remember you saying this a long time ago. Let teams have 3 DPs and all the extras. Instead of it being a this or that, they need to just let it all happen. And find teams less scam next season if they don't have 3 DP slots filled. Like, you can find ways to get these teams that aren't spending to spend a little more. And I think you need to do that first so you keep the parity somewhat. I mean, let's be honest, there is no parity. Like, there is parity, but there's not at the same time.
There's not.
San Jose getting into the play-in spot for the playoffs, let's say they did, they still wouldn't have a chance against Miami or LAFC. Like, let's be honest. Let's be completely honest. I've always loved San Jose because that's my boyhood club, you know. But let's be honest, you know, they're not going to compete with that type of payroll and that type of talent. So this parity talk either uplift the other teams, give the other teams something, or just have 5 DPs. And then I would say, in my opinion, the question that I asked you, what would be a success before the World Cup? Add 2 more DPs and give everybody that option to have all the other add-ons instead of this or that. But I don't think that's going to happen because they spent the whole year doing this or that thing, you know, and now people finally understand it. But it just personally, it just holds back the league more than helps the league, I think.
Well, I just think that, and I think I speak for a lot of people, is they need to simplify things instead of adding more and more complications, right? So now they changed it. Originally, if you wanted to use all 3 U22 spots, excuse me, you had to have 1 young DP. And everybody said that's stupid. Why would you do that? Just let them use both. Well, they finally changed it after a couple of years. Well, now they have it to where if you use 2 DP spots and 3 U22, so you leave a DP spot vacant, you can sign a 4th U22 and get 2 million additional game. They just make it way too complicated, and it's just a lot to keep up with. And yes, a lot of fans are able to understand the rules as much as they can, but it's just way too much, and there's just way too much complications that are unnecessary, right? So I think that another thing too is not necessarily just about adding more quality to the league, but simplifying things, Bobby.
Yeah.
Maybe get rid of some DP spots and just add a hard cap of, if Miami's already spending 45 million on salaries, why can't they just spend 45 million how they want to? I mean, is that really changing? I mean, it's the same amount of money. It's just you're using it more flexible. Like it's a lot more leeway to spend it how you want to spend it. So, and like you said, I think they've sold people parity. Parity is a false. I feel like it's propaganda. I don't think it's true. I think they tell people that to like believe in the salary cap. But like you said, there's certain teams that are just never going to win MLS Cup. They're just not going to. Montreal's not going to win MLS Cup.
I think it does. There is a little bit of parity, and I think Vancouver has a dark horse shot at winning this MLS Cup.
But they're starting to spend though.
Right, they got Thomas Mueller. I mean, they got a guy, right? And they had to spend a little more for that. They got Ryan Gauld back. They spent for Ryan Gauld. So it's not like they're just breezing by, grabbing all the former MLS guys like an RSL, right? They're actually, you know, being ambitious this year and the last year with Brian Wright and everything. So I think there is a happy medium. And I think you could be like a Vancouver, but Vancouver, if they had a 4th or a 5th DP slot, would be better too. And it would be better for CONCACAF. And I think when MLS starts dominating Liga MX, I think that's when we think, okay, MLS, in my eyes, made it. And I think that is still a huge hurdle that MLS has yet to do in CONCACAF. And I think with Seattle doing it and the Galaxy doing it back in the day, those are nice stories, but MLS needs to be doing it 5 or 6 years in a row. And then we could start talking Argentina, Brazil.
But that's the thing. That's the thing, Fabi, though. It's like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I definitely want to win the CONCACAF Champions Cup and beat Liga MX. But it's like my sights are bigger than that. Like that, if that's what we're just that's like just us, a dog chasing his tail. Like that should not be the main goal of what we're trying to do. And to your point about, you said they had you said this earlier in the episode about them having deeper rosters, they spend more. Some of these teams would have the equivalency of like 8 to 11 DPs on their team.
Liga MX teams.
Liga MX teams, yes, just based on transfer fees and salaries. And another thing too, like besides just the quality, which everyone wants to improve, right? It's also about the opportunity of catching new viewers and getting these people. What happens if all these players after the World Cup want to come to Major League Soccer and they say, sorry, you can't go there. We don't have any spots for you. You can't go to LA Galaxy. They have no DP spots.
Take a look at Miami. They want to get Neymar or Lewandowski. Imagine if it was and.
Yes.
Imagine if it was and.
Which they're really old, so I would kind of be against that. But I get for purpose sake, yes, like they shouldn't have to pick. If both want to come over here, they should let both of them come over here.
Right. I mean, Neymar doesn't need the money. He could go on a TAM deal, to be honest.
Yeah, but then there'd be some investigations. They'd be like, hey, wait a second, man. Ain't no way. Those club bills are too high. He ain't paying that.
What about the discovery rights? Because supposedly Miami had discovery rights of Neymar, but then Chicago got it, and then they traded De Bruyne's for Neymar's. I think there needs to be more transparency on that side too with discovery rights. Everybody's list should be displayed. I think that's the honest truth. Every single list of discovery list needs to be displayed. There needs to be a set rule of how you can discover a guy like Kevin De Bruyne, and there needs to be more transparency on that because. And then you remember Kevin De Bruyne? Nobody wanted to sign him, so they let that, which was some San Diego's, go to Miami, and then all of a sudden it ended up in Chicago because they couldn't sign Neymar and they just swapped for Neymar's and De Bruyne's. Like there has to be a transaction log of discovery rights, or just getting rid of it completely. Because even as a journalist in this league, I was having a hard time keeping up with what discovery player went to what and who had the rights at what certain point.
No, I agree with that. And I want to say one other thing too about just this whole sequence of teams, right? Signing players or players wanting to come over here, or them thinking there's an unfair advantage of players coming over here. I want to say this too. Major League Soccer, if they did allow more flexibility, they would have more teams in it than other leagues. Like it wouldn't be a 3-team league. It'd probably be like a 6 to 10 team league, which it is
Right.
already, in my opinion. There's a lot of rich owners here. It would not just be 3 teams winning it every year. And another reason that is because there's a playoff system. It's not just who has the highest total points within the year, it's whoever wins the playoffs. But one thing that people have to realize too, Favi, is that your team, if you're cheap and you're cursed to support a team that doesn't spend a lot of money, your team isn't going to get relegated. So it's not like because your team is that bad that you're suddenly not going to be in the same league as these other top teams. So it really feels like there's no downside for the cheaper teams. They're going to make more money because the league's going to be more popular.
Yeah, and you're going to bring more fans in to see the other teams, right?
Yes, exactly. Like we talked about earlier in another episode, San Jose having Son playing him at Levi Stadium, and I assume that they got most of the revenue from that. Outside of the cut they had to pay the 49ers or whoever owns the stadium. But that's my thought is like it's like a rising tide lifting all boats. It will help the entire league. And I'm going to give you the final word on this, but I just want to say that I hope that this can get some type of change. I'm a little optimistic because of who the messenger is. One, Lionel Messi. His word has a lot of weight and a lot of pull. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be, the playoffs aren't even close to being over with. Long offseason ahead of us. We'll see if it actually bears any change.
Yeah, I'm optimistic too, but I wish the message was a little more clear. I think the message could have been done better. Imagine the first words he said in English was MLS needs to not have salary restrictions. Like that would blow the league up, like that would be insane because everybody would be replaying the first words he said on an interview in English or one of the most iconic ones. And it would make MLS, you need to embarrass MLS to a point where they are going to change it. And I don't think this pushes the envelope. I think the 7-1 defeats in CONCACAF Champions League or Cup, that's going to really embarrass you. But there needs to be more of that. And in League's Cup, MLS or Liga MX teams haven't been taking it too seriously, so there hasn't been that. So you've been able to kind of live with the status quo. Now, if League's Cup was, which it should be, Liga MX teams running table, then maybe MLS would think twice, like just like how CONCACAF has run table with Liga MX. I think MLS needs to be embarrassed a bit more, and I think Messi should have said it in a way that was a little more crucial if he's truly trying to make a change, because he has an investment in this league, right? Don't forget, he's a partial owner. So he needs to push the envelope a bit more. I think he needs to be a little more clinical with his words because he is Messi. And personally, if that was his first words in English, the rules would have changed to yesterday, right? So I think the message is good. The messenger is great. The delivery could have been a bit better.
We'll see what happens. Like I said, the playoffs aren't even over with yet. The offseason will officially begin. Well, it's already began for some teams who didn't make the playoffs, but the offseason officially begins in December after MLS Cup. We'll see if any changes happens, if the ownership votes to, the board of governors vote to change the DP rule, salary cap rule. We'll be following it closely, and if anything happens, you guys will hear it here first. I hope you enjoyed this video. You have to let us know down below if you think that anything will happen because of Messi's comments. Make sure you go follow Fabian Rankel at Fabian Rankel on Twitter, /X, Instagram, TikTok, even Threads, the only man on Threads. Go follow him
Yeah.
on there as well. He's got a lot of good stuff that 10 people see on Threads. So make sure you go be one of those 10 people and check him out. Make sure you guys give us a like down below if you made it to the end. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the little bell notification so you never miss any of our videos. Until next time, guys, I will see you all soon.